Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. I'm the Urban Monk, broadcasting live and on catch up on A1R and Moonstruck TV. It's a pleasure to be here again in Monk Towers, and tonight I want to just talk about attachment and how it affects living in the present or in the now, right now. Attachment in the dictionary is kind of described as one person's feelings for another, not necessarily in a good way, but most likely normally in a good way. But it can also transpose to other things: attachment for a career, attachment for a property, attachment for a particular kind of lifestyle. But what we don't realize is that attachment is fed by fear, and it's the fear of the attachment that stops us being present and living in the now. So, for example, in a relationship, we are attached or we want to be with that other person, which then engenders that fear of losing that person. So we can take that to a job. I can allow my boss to talk to me in a way that is disrespectful or unnecessary for fear of losing that job. So I'm attached to the job. It's a kind of thing where we kick into self-preservation, but allow the fear to control the egoic mind, which is what I'm talking about in terms of being present and living in the now. We need to get rid of the egoic mind. That's not to say that you can turn around and say to your boss, I hate the job, you're a dick. I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that, but I've said it. So you can't tell your boss you're a dick for fear of losing the job. So it's more about thinking about a better way of dealing with that situation. And maybe one of the better ways is to get another job, because the fear of losing that job is a forerunner to catastrophization or worrying about an event that is about to happen sometime in the future. If I say this, I'll get the sack. If I say that, I'll lose my relationship. So attachment really does create that fear that we're talking about, which stops us living in the present moment. And I'll tell you a story. It's from a client, and no names mentioned clearly, but I've got permission from the client to mention this story tonight because I think it's quite pertinent. This person was deeply involved in a relationship. It was a new relationship, but he really kind of got involved heavily and was with somebody that he really wanted to spend the rest of his life with. This person that he was with was very gregarious and very outgoing. In the UK, we would call it flirty, but wanted attention. So when I was talking to the client, I was explaining the fact that this flirtiness was very much a need for attention, a desire for attention, feeling lost and insecure, and really we could trace that back to his partner's past. However, despite him trying to change that person's reaction or that person's need for attention and love, if you like, he poured onto her his own insecurities. So the fear of losing her, the attachment to that relationship, which I mentioned earlier on, attachment in the dictionary is about relationship with another. We can take that broadly, and unfortunately I haven't got time for that tonight. But in terms of the attachment, he was wanting to check where she was going. He wanted to know that she was doing what she said she was doing. He was following her to work to make sure that she actually got to work. And it wasn't her that had the problem. And as I explained to him, it was his own problem himself. He'd been previously a person that had always wanted that love, wanted that attention. He came to me because he was very narcissistic and realized that his demeanor was portraying him as a really, really kind of nice guy. But deep down inside, it was not the love of another, it was the love of himself that he was missing. So he was trying to get everybody to like him so that he felt good about himself. It was that lack of love, that lack of presence, that lack of how he really was or felt about himself that he was then portraying onto her or putting onto her relationship. So she would go out to work dressed really nicely. He would get jealous and insecure because that was the kind of thing he would do to get other people to like him. So before he met her, he was very much a social butterfly. He would go out there, he would flit in and out of places, he would get from one relationship to another. He would crave that attention. Having found this relationship and created that attachment, this is the point I'm trying to say, he created an attachment to this person, and so the fear of losing that person made him behave in a way that he suspected her behavior. He thought there was a hidden agenda in her behavior. Followed her to work, followed her on nights out, actually started to become something of a stalker. And obviously, I spent 15 years in law enforcement, so we had to discuss the actual fact of stalking. So if you can see where I'm coming from, the fact that love is a primary emotion, but we confuse that with attachment. We can be convinced that we want to be with somebody. And if we have that attachment to the job, to the house, to the car, to the career, whatever it might be that we want, alongside that comes the fear of losing that thing. Instead of being present and accepting that person for who that person is, or accepting you for who you are, or us for who we are, we then start to get defensive because the fear comes in, the lack of presence, the catastrophizing starts to happen. We think about what would happen a week on Friday. Is this person really going out with the girls? Is this person really going out with the guys? You know, so we become attached, which leads to the fear of loss. And I said to the client, the fact that you were that kind of person that was going out for attention, don't put that on her. Don't, because she's happy, outgoing, loving, and really kind of a fun kind of person. He saw that as the way he used to be, the way he was, to try and get a relationship, to try and do something else, to try and be with somebody else. Doubt, suspicion, anger, frustration, jealousy. None of those words I've just said are positive, nowist, present kind of words. We need to love ourselves. We need to be able to be in love with ourselves. And then we have all that time and all that energy and all that love to give to someone else. So we talked about it and we went through quite a few little techniques, mindfulness, how to cope with things. And another subject I'll talk about next week or maybe later on is letting go. There's a good book that's available on Amazon, Audible, or from bookshops called Letting Go. It's an amazing book. It talks about emotions, it talks about fear, it talks about anxiety, and all these things, excuse me, all these things are linked to the future. We fear the past, we fear the future, we hope for a better future. But unless we're actually present, unless we're actually in the moment, we can't create that future, because there is only now. And the way we develop our brain, the way we develop our thoughts, the way we start to think about things will mold the future for ourselves. And I explained to the client, the more he thinks about his partner cheating on him, his partner going somewhere else, his partner doing things that upset him, the more he thinks about that, the more the law of attraction, previous shows, future shows yet to come, he will get what he thinks about the most. The key to that is he's judging another person, he's judging his partner by his previous behavior, the way he used to be, the way he used to talk to people. And when he sees that person doing what he used to do for a sexual purpose or for a feeling of gratification, he thinks that that's exactly what she's doing. So instead of being present and allowing that to happen, he has a fear of the relationship ending. Now, again, I mentioned Dale Carnegie's book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. In it, it says, what's the worst that can happen? And I said to the client, you've got to understand what's the worst that can happen. The worst that can happen is the relationship ends. If he can accept that, because clearly, if he has doubts or if he's creating that animosity between the two people, the relationship's not going to work anyway. So by being present and by forgiving and understanding and allowing all loving, positive, promotional kind of emotions, his greatest fears won't come to pass. So what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is the relationship ends. If he is happy to accept that, then he can work today to make sure that doesn't happen by looking inward and being present. So I'm getting the buzz from Dave. I'm just about to get my unicycle out, or it's telling me I've got to jump out the window. I think that's a bit dangerous. So time's ticking by. It's been great talking to you guys. If you can hit me up on Long Road to Richmond on Facebook or urbanuk@gmail.com, and I'll catch you all next week. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.